is West Martello Towers. This is one of 3 Civil War forts on the island. But remember, during the Civil War, Key West was a Union garrison. If you lived here, you wanted to join the South, you had to travel north from here in order to do that. This is Hicks Beach. Looks like a nice beach, right? Not a single beach on Key West is natural. Every one of our beaches are man-made. It's because of the coral reef. Since the wave action of the Atlantic never touches our shores, every bit of sand around this island was actually purchased in the Bahamas or in upstate Florida, and then it was trucked or buried in. Now, the reef actually had a beneficial effect on the island. That's what caused Key West to become the wealthiest city per capita in the U.S. What was happening from most of the 1800s into the early 1900s was that ships were wrecking on that reef. They would run aground. And when the wrecks were spotted from the island, a cry of wreck ashore would ring out across Key West, and people would race out to the reef, get the survivors back to shore, bring up the salvage. They'd take all the salvage downtown to the customs warehouse. They would auction it off on Saturdays. They divided up the money on Mondays. And that process kept on for almost 100 years until somebody went around one day asking the question, well, what do you think would happen if we were to put buoys and channel markers out there? So they did. They marked the reef. Guess what happened? Shipping industry vanished overnight. The other industry that we're famous for having and losing is Cuban cigars. That started really small in 1831. But after political unrest up through Cuba, by 1877, there were enough Cubans here that they were operating 166 cigar factories, and they were hand-rolling over 100 million Cuban cigars per year. So this was the cigar capital of the world until 1886. What happened that year was somebody got angry at the Cubans, and they went downtown on Duval Street to the back of San Carlos and started a small fire in the back room. The fire engine just happened to be broken that day, and within 12 hours, less than half a day later, virtually every single building on this island had burned to the ground. And that's what happened to the cigar. This is a private tour. Yeah, they'll pick you up over there. I pulled you up in here so you could get a look at this place. This is the very last of Henry Flagler's hotels that complemented his East Coast Railroad. This is the Casa Marina. This is one of the modern engineering marvels of the early 1900s. It's made of poured Belgian cement. He was wealthy enough to go get what was believed to be the best cement of that era, which was in Belgium, have it shipped to the U.S., and then realize a wooden form was built for this huge structure, the cement mixed up and then poured. The base of this hotel is 22 inches thick, and it tapers up to where it is still 12 inches thick at the top. This is a fortress. When you wake up every morning, isn't the name Henry Flagler the very first thing you think of?
Absolutely.
Sure. Let me give you one reason to think of him every so often anyways. Henry Flagler is the very same man that started Standard Oil Company with John Davis and Rockefeller. Remember it the next time you fell out. Sad to say, that beautiful hotel is the one hotel that he started to work on that he never saw completed. They finished this hotel in 1921. Henry got here with his railroad in 1912, but he also passed away the following year, 1913. Now, to this day, the Flagler family maintains that Henry passed away from a heart attack brought on by stress. That's true. He had a few years on him. It's also true that his eyesight was beginning to fail him somewhat. But the family says neither of those two conditions bothered the man. They claim it was something far more sinister that killed a very wealthy individual that day. And that was the fact that 1913 was actually the very first year of federal income tax. That's where he put the blame. Now, you let a few more years go by, and you get to the stock market crash, 1929. The Great Depression begins to set in. And when the Depression hit this little island, Key West went bankrupt. And every industry here had been destroyed by fire, hurricane, or natural blight. Population of the island had dwindled to less than 11,000 people. Over 80% of Key West was on welfare. Roosevelt seriously contemplated evacuating the island. In the end, he and his advisors decided that tourism was the way to go. And that's when things started to happen. The marketing slogan, America's only Caribbean island, came into being. For the first tourist season, the winter of 1934, over 40,000 people came down the Flagler Railroad. It was a great success for this little island. Key West could hardly wait for the second tourist season to get here, the winter of 1935. It never happened. In September of 1935, the Labor Day hurricane cut across the Keys up in Isla Morada, destroying the Flagler Railroad. Without the railroad, no way to bring the people down, no way to have a tourist season. Well, the feds were really good about it. They stepped right in. They took control of the railroad. They repaired the bridges. Hey, they even turned it into the overseas highway. But unfortunately, when they finished, it was World War II and rationing had started. No one was traveling. So the little city that was once the wealthiest place in the U.S. for the most of the years of the 1800s wound up actually being the poorest city in the United States from 1929 until 1946. We're now in the southernmost area of the continental U.S. Just simply don't have much more room to go. Southernmost Point's going to be 2 blocks ahead on our left. The southernmost house in the U.S., or what's called the southernmost house, is going to be 1 block ahead. This place is under construction. Anybody on board a Tennessee Williams fan? Nobody? Yeah. This is where he, if you know about, he used to get up and work early every morning, and then he would come down to the beach and go for an afternoon swim. This was clothing optional beach on Key West up until actually just a few months ago. And this, of course, was the Tennessee Williams' favorite spot to go swimming. Coming up next will be the house that for 112 years has been called the Southernmost House. It was built in 1896 for a federal judge, J. Vining Harris, and today it's considered to be the world's finest example of Queen Anne architecture. There you see the beautiful home across on the left. Beautiful, beautiful mansion. What I want you to realize is that while this was truly the original Southernmost House, and it's always been called the Southernmost House, it's not the true Southernmost House, and hasn't been for quite some time. This last house on the left, behind this beige wall, was built in 1940 for Thelma Strable. You know, the lady that wrote the short story Reap the Wild Wind that John Wayne turned into the movie. She had this home placed 19 inches farther south of the judge's mansion 68 years ago. That is the true southernmost house in the U.S. Southernmost Point, 90 miles to Cuba, closer to Castro than we are to mainland USA. All of these old homes on the right are called Gato Village, built by the wealthy cigar manufacturer Eduardo Gato for his employees back in the cigar industry. Now, Eduardo Gato is also responsible for the trolleys on Key West. He built the first one here in 1885, and then he continued to operate the trolley lines until 1926. Today, we design and build the trolleys. We send them out to all of our locations. Key West is our home base, but you can take an Old Town trolley tour in San Diego, Savannah, St. Augustine, as well as up to D.C. and in Boston. Off to the right, huge yellow building, green shutters, word butterfly on the side of the building. That is the Key West Butterfly Conservatory. In that atrium, in the back of that building, are over 60 species of living butterflies. That is one special place to spend a couple hours. Up ahead on the right, a bright blue sign with gold writing that says La Tida. Most important building in Cuba's independence struggle against Spain. Back in the 1890s, the great Cuban patriot Jose Marti would stand right up there night after night. There'd be thousands of people down in the street, and he would rally for Cuban independence from Spain. So that balcony quickly became known as La Teresa de Marti, literally the Terrace of Marti. The English had such a horrible time pronouncing it, they just simply shortened it to La Tida. Now, we're back on Duval Street, the upper part of it anyways. Of course, Duval is the main street in Key West. This area of Duval is